Hi, welcome to Wrinkle Society of Hope. Wrinkle stands for Women Rejoicing in Nourished, Courageous with a K, Life-Encouraging Stories. Women who care enough to share. Wrinkles is a platform built for women to share their stories of the wrinkles in life that they have to press through in order to become the women that they are today. Wrinkles is here for you, and I would love for you to come and share your stories with the Wrinkles family. Now today, I have a woman that's courageous enough to come and share her Wrinkles story. I would love for you to give her a thumbs up for her story and her sharing. And please subscribe to our channel and share with other people. Well, hello, Wrinkles family. I have another one of my friends here, and also Santa Cruz grad as well. Yes, Eloy in the house. So I'm gonna have you introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Sarah Good. I am a mom, which explains some of the mess that maybe I moved the mess out of the screen enough that you can't see it. I've got 3 kids. I'm a wife. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm a runner. I currently live in Temecula, California, and this is probably going to be home. We've moved a lot in the last 20 years, but I think we're sticking around here until our youngest graduates from high school, and then we will downsize probably in the same neighborhood because we really like it here, but we won't need all the space when we have no kids running around.
Yes, awesome. Now tell me, where in California, where is that big city near? I never heard of it.
Our biggest city near us is San Diego. It's a really amazing location. So San Diego is about 60 miles south of us, and Los Angeles is about 70 miles north of us. Getting to LA is a lot harder just because of traffic, but when we're not in quarantine, it's a great place to be because we have the option of both big cities for concerts, football teams, and things like that. So we're inland. We don't have the beach. But close to both big cities and about 4 hours from Vegas, which is Gabby.
Oh, well, you're in a great location. I'm going to have to come visit. And your husband's military as well, right?
So he spent 28 years in the military. He's a little bit older than me. So I spent 10 years. He spent 28 total. Started out in the Army, went to college, and then joined the Air Force as a C-130 navigator and retired from the military 3.5 years ago now. So he teaches Air Force Junior ROTC at Temecula Valley High School. So he still wears his uniform to work, which is right here, right? Still has to stay in shape, still has to do his hair and all of that stuff. But he is no longer active duty.
Wow, that's awesome. And you did 10 years?
I did. So I was on active duty for about 6 years. And then when my husband and I got married, I separated from active duty and went into the Wyoming Air National Guard and spent about 4 years working weekends and doing extra time that way before separating completely. And I would have stayed in forever, but we were moving to Spain, which was the highlight of his Air Force career. And we were like a mile from the beach. It was sweet, but they said, you can stay in the Guard if you want. You just need to come home every January for what they call big drill. It's like 2 weeks worth of, and I was like, I'm not coming home from Spain to go to Wyoming.
Yeah.
Every January. Cause it's negative 25 in January. I'm from Arizona. We didn't experience cold. And so I was like, no, I think it's just time to get out. And sometimes I don't know if that was the best decision. It was the best decision. I shouldn't say that. It was. But I definitely look at my peers who haven't gotten out and they're doing in the military now. Their commanders, their rank and things like that. And I'm just like, oh, I never got to do that. That would have been really cool. And I think I would have been really good at it. But because when I got out, I didn't have the same opportunities. But I've also done a lot of stuff they haven't been able to because I got out. So it's always a balance.
Always a balance. Well, thank you and your husband for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for saying so.
Yes. I love veterans. So I'm a little biased, but I love veterans.
Well, we appreciate appreciate it.
Well, as I always start off, as you see, Sarah has the most glowing skin. And I've been watching her on Facebook, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Her skin is immaculate. So I don't see any wrinkles. But if you would get a physical wrinkle, or if you have one hidden in that glow, how would you feel about that?
I will say I have some, but I've reversed some father time. I have good skincare. Like you said, we'll talk about that later. Wrinkles and like gray hairs, those kind of things, I've always thought, well, when it happens, I'm not going to fight against it. Like, whatever, it is what it is. And, but when it showed up, I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago. So when father time did show up, I was a little more like, oh, it's not feel like I thought it was going to feel. But I do think that it represents movement in our life. So, and sometimes you're moving forward with great joy and happiness, and smiling causes wrinkles as much as frowning does. Sometimes the movement is backwards, sometimes it's lateral. And so I want to be really cliche and say, you know, like, I'm proud of my wrinkles and I'm proud of my gray hair. But at the same time, I use skincare twice a day, every day. I probably won't ever dye my hair because I'm too cheap to upkeep. So that is just going to have to happen. But I think I want to be cliche about it, but at the same time, I recognize that it is affecting me in a way I wasn't expecting, or in a way that I had verbally said, I'm not going to let it bother me. It's not going to be a thing that I focus on, until it happened. And then I had to walk back on that statement and go, I care. But yeah, I think it represents movement in life, and it's never a bad thing. Whether you're moving forward or back, it's never a bad thing.
Love it. Awesome. I love it. Yes, because I mean, we are definitely moving, even if we don't want to move, especially, you know, sometimes, like you said, backwards or forward, it's something that we can't control.
Yeah.
You know?
And try to control it. I think sometimes movement it's a gesture of kindness from people around us. When we're going in a direction that's uncomfortable or hard, it's probably, or it's hopefully because there was someone saying, no, you need to take that step. Like, you're worth it. You're worthy. You can do it. And so hopefully our movement is a gesture of kindness from someone around us. And maybe that'll help me to appreciate the wrinkles and appreciate the grays. When I think about it's because I was like, oh gosh, this is hard. Oh my God. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But we always do it, right? Like, it's like your wedding day when you're so nervous and all the planning and everything has happened. Like, well, the morning comes and the day happens. No matter, like, at the end of the day, it is the end of the day. And so it's going to happen whether we fight against it and move with it or whatever.
Well put. I like that. So as we're moving through life, we run into those emotional wrinkles, or just a wrinkle that kind of trips us up. What is some wrinkle that you have went through in life that you had to press through?
Gosh, so many. I think that you know as well as I do, like, coming from where we came from. Eloy is home. Santa Cruz is my alma mater. Like, it's part of my story, but kind of overcoming generational poverty and the things that growing up in a rural community like that can sometimes impose on you has been difficult.
Yes.
But I think, like you, being a supporter of women has always been really important to me. Well, it hasn't always been. I don't think I always knew it was, but it has appeared to me to be very important. And I think one of the biggest things that happened in my life that kind of pushed me there was my son, who is 14 now, is from my first marriage. So I got married when I was a freshman in college, which, I mean, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and do it over because it gave me my son. But sometimes my mom and sister were like, like, hold on, you're 19. This is not happening. I wouldn't have listened anyway. But so my son is from my first marriage. His father and I separated before he was even a year old. So he doesn't know a life of us being together. And we've, for the most part, been really good at co-parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Jonas was 5. He deployed to Pakistan for a year. And so we had him for a year. And while he was deployed, he said, when I come back, I would like to have him for a year to make up for that year that was gone. A hard decision, but at the same time, an easy decision. Like, we were a terrible married couple. I was a terrible wife. He was a terrible husband, but he's a really good dad.
Yeah.
You know, and always been a really good dad. And so as much as I wanted to say no, I couldn't justify a no. And so he spent a year, and while he was in Pakistan, we found out his next assignment was going to be in England. And I lived in Illinois at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And I had already agreed that he would spend this time with him. And I was like, wait, he's moving to a different continent. But it was what it was. And so he moved away to England for a whole year. And while he was there, so his dad's girlfriend, her name was Leanne, had been in his life since he was 2. And she moved to England with them. And they weren't married, but Jonas was 5 during that year. And I remember over the phone him saying to me something about his mom. They were going to like a farmer's market. And I mean, immediately start sweating right now.
Yeah.
And I never would have put any pressure on him, but it took a great deal of restraint.
Yeah.
To process through that, even though I was already remarried. And Jonas now he just calls him dad, but he called him Michael dad. Mm-hmm. He had his dad and his Michael dad. And so he had already been calling my husband dad. But when he said mom, I was like, I'm your mom. What do you mean? It was so interesting because I had to take a step back, and I always go back to this memory of her. She, the year before for Christmas, had gotten Jonas, it was a gift, like it was addressed to me, and it was matching homemade Christmas ornaments. And one was for my daughter Eliana, who at the time, she was only a month old. She had just been born. No. And she says, I know you're not going to be able to have Christmas every year with Jonas because we switch holidays, but you can put these ornaments next to each other so that Eliana knows she's still connected to her brother even when he can't be there.
Wow.
And I'm like, this woman, while she has terrible taste in men, is Jonas had expressed a love for her and calling her mom because she was mothering him. And as painful as it was for me, how could I not love her for the same reasons that he loved her? But it was hard. And it makes my heart race right now to think about it still.
It stresses me out a little bit, to be honest.
It's so much. Like, it's moments, and it's moments you can't prepare yourself for. Like, it just happened in a second. And he was in England and I was in Illinois, and we were on the phone, and I was like, I have to process through this in real time without messing it up. Mm-hmm. But while also respecting my own feelings and my emotions and my panic, because I don't want to pretend it didn't affect me, but you have to do it in a way that respects the child as well. Yeah. But I really think that that was my trajectory to, radical empathy and in accepting women. And I mean, accepting everyone, but I have a soft spot for women and raising them up, that I thought, she had gone so far outside of her comfort zone to let me know that she loved him, that she loved his son, and that she was going to take care of his emotions. She was raising him to be a man and to be gentle and kind and respect family when I wasn't there to do it. And if she could take care of my heart that way, then I need to make sure I could take care of other women's hearts that way. And that radical compassion and radical empathy for situations that I don't understand, but I can try. And that's what's really pushed me into where I am, where what I really want to do is lift women up, and that whole, fix their crown,
Yeah.
telling them it's stuff. Like, it's cliche and it's silly, but it is real and it's necessary and it's needed, especially in a community of Black and brown women. Like, we need strong people who look like us.
Exactly.
To do that. And so that was a really long answer.
No, it was a great answer. And I put myself in your place because, yes, I have 2 sons, so my oldest son, I co-parent very well with his father. We're like friends. Mm-hmm. And one time that was brought up to me, he said, one day he's going to have to come live with me. And I was like, what?
Yes. We're in this.
Stressed me out. It stressed me out, just the thought of it. So you went through it.
It's hard. And, so this is good. This is a good conversation that I think is important for women specifically because of societal expectations. Parenting after divorce is very different. What we expect or see with women and what we expect and see with men, with the dads. And there were people who would say to me, I could never do that.
Yeah. And
I had to really always calm myself down because this isn't what they were saying. But what I was hearing was, you must not love your son that much. You must love him as much as I love my son, because I would never let my kid go. And you let yours go, you must not care as much. That's not what they were saying. No. It's not, but it's how I would process it. And I'd have to take a deep breath and go, okay, they don't understand. They've never been asked. Now, if my ex-husband was a terrible dad or he was emotionally abusive to him and I allowed him to go, it still wouldn't be because I didn't love my son, but it would be a different conversation. Mm-hmm. But I literally could find no reason to say no. He was as much of a parent as I am. But I think we expect different things from parents. No one ever says to the dads, oh man, how could you let your son live with the mom? It's a pressure that society puts on mothers when we have to make those hard decisions.
That's so true. That's so true. Did you have anybody at the time that helped you work through that? Was it your husband or your mom or?
My husband he's a catch-22 because he's so supportive and he does an amazing job of feeling. A lot of men don't feel, and he feels. Mm-hmm. But he is also fiercely protective of my heart and of my son. And so, he's been around since Jonas was 2. And so it's, he's raised in the way I have. I think it was very difficult for Michael to see my heart hurt.
Yeah.
Support our decision to let that happen. But he also knew that it was what was right. He likes my ex-husband less than I like him. My heart. But he was really helpful in that. My mom also, I grew up the very first years of my life in Indonesia. So I was born in Indonesia. And my brother, I don't know if you know my brother, he's 12 years older than me. And so he was in the early stages of high school when we lived in Indonesia, and they didn't have a high school. So he actually had to leave and go to a boarding school in the Philippines. And he was gone for a year. And my mom would talk to me about remembering him being gone for that year. Now, he was way older. He didn't have parental supervision. It was different. He was at a boarding school. But it's why we came home from Indonesia, because she was like, we can't send him away for years at a time for school. We've got to come back to America. But she was very helpful in just talking about sharing the pain, kind of commiserating, and I get it. It hurts. And not trying to say, but you're going to push through it and get over it. Because like I said earlier about respecting our emotions and our feelings, I think it's important that we are allowed to do that. And it's important that our sons are allowed to do that. And that's another societal thing with boys and men. But I really appreciate that my husband is a feeler, and that my mom and my sister, they allowed me to be sad without saying you just need to get up and do the dishes. Just stop it. Just get up and go on with it. there was a lot of respect and kindness around the hurt from it.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. It's good to have that support with something such a big decision, but to love your son enough to allow him to have that moment with his father.
Yeah. And like you said about your kids, like the conversation's starting again. He's like, I want to go live with my dad for high school. And his dad is still in the military and is thinking, he's currently deployed right now, for 6 months. He's in Iraq and he's to get moved to Germany. I will say, I think this is a harder decision than the other one. In part A, so he's no longer with Leanne. That they broke up a long time ago, but I will say she still gets a Mother's Day card from Jonas. She still sends presents to him. They call and talk. Like, she is still very much a part of his life.
That's beautiful.
But right now there is no spouse. And so him moving to Germany would be him going to Germany with a single dad that's in the military. And that I don't think I could do. I mean, I've lived the military life long enough to know that you don't get to say, I'm not going to go on that trip you're asking me to go on. And then that leaves my son in a foreign country by himself.
Oh.
So it's a different conversation. It's also, I feel like it's just way more important. High school is such a bigger deal than first grade.
Oh, yeah.
So,
way different.
we'll see what's going to happen with that. Who knows?
Yeah. So what would you tell yourself back in the day, 19, getting married, barely having Jonas? What would you tell yourself, the young you?
Two things. I would tell her to go running. Running is a very important part of who I am now. I didn't start running until, so my daughter just turned 10. So it's been about 10 years. I started running after I had her. Now, like I said, I was in the military and I did ROTC when I went to college. So starting when I was 18 and went to college, I had to run to stay fit. And I mean, we used to have to run around the school, for band.
Yeah.
And so I ran, but that running and the running in the military was like running under pressure, running under performance expectations. And so I always finish what I start. I always meet the expectation and try to do my best at whatever it is. But when it came to running, and I always met the minimums, I couldn't find any joy in doing better than what I needed to do. And that's I'm pretty driven. And so that kind of running was different. And I started running, I don't want to say competitively, but in races where I started running for me.
Okay.
And distance running. It doesn't have to be distance, but I would tell high school Sarah to stop being so dang emotional. Run. Like, in addition to the health benefits you get from running, it's time where you're alone and you have to be with yourself. You have to be with your heart and your emotions and your feelings. And so you have to confront them and you have to decide what you're going to do with them. I have friends that run, and I've run with people before, with my husband for training runs, but far and away, I want to run alone because it's the time I get to work things out. It's also a time when my brain is so busy. And in high school was very, very hard for me. I did my freshman year at Santa Cruz, and then I moved in with my brother in Chandler or in Mesa to try and get away. And then I came back, dropped out of high school. Like, I was a high school dropout, came back to high school. Yeah.
I love that.
I went to Santa Cruz my junior year. And then my senior year, I took all my classes except for band at CAC. So I really only did high school for 2 years, 2.5 maybe, before I dropped out. Just because I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I had people. I look back and that wasn't true. Like, the still friends. I got a message this morning of a picture of like 3 or 4 of us at Ricardo's, and I was a freshman in high school. This morning, picture, I had people, right? But I didn't know it then. Wonder if I had gone for a run, if it would have been different, if I would have realized that things weren't as bad as I was making them out to be. Boy, was I dramatic. My poor mom. I would tell myself to go for a run, and I would tell myself to wear the red lipstick.
Really?
My sister, Val, she's
That's my
yeah,
classmate.
I feel like Valerie always knew herself so much better than me. She's always more comfortable in her skin. And I remember she used to, and still does, wear red lipstick. And a couple of years when we were hanging out and I was home from college or whatever, I would put red lipstick on and I would never wear it out. I thought I looked ridiculous. And she would say, you're just not used to it. Like it just because you're not used to seeing it, but you look fine. And I was like, it's just too bold. It's too much. And now here I sit with a half-shaved head and tattoos.
Yeah.
I think I would have had struggles with boldness. But in my later years, I'd say in the last few years, I started wearing red lipstick. And I did a training for like 15,000 people online. And I wore red lipstick, and one of my business mentors, who's a friend of mine as well, she says it's red lipstick leadership. You need to coin that, and that's yours. Like, you just trained 15,000 women in red lips. You can no longer say you're not going to be bold.
I love it.
And I was like, well, dang, I have this. But I think I would tell my younger self to put it on sooner, to be bold.
Wow. I never would have known that, because you presented yourself in high school like you were so confident.
Did I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I asked my mom and sister about it. I have selective memory loss and selective memory retention. I remember feeling mousy and scared, and I wore like a green army jacket, and I kept my hair in my face, and I felt like I was hiding.
Wow.
But it's interesting to hear you say that that's not what you saw.
No, I did it. And that's funny that when you're saying that, I saw you as like you stood out on your own and being your own unique you. And so I always thought you were very confident. And that's why I remember you, because you're young. I mean, you're younger than me. So I remember you. Yeah, I knew Val, of course. But I just remember, I thought you were very confident. I was like, she's so cute. She stands out on her own. She don't care. She wears what she wants. She got that funky look to her. And that's what I thought of you. So for you saying that, it's so crazy how you perceive people.
Yeah.
You know?
Gosh, the message that you send out is jumbled up. And I think that's why, like I mentioned, radical empathy and radical compassion is so important, because of the messages that we receive from other women, especially because of women are more so than men, we're trying to emote something or to hide something, which is what I was doing. But it goes through this whole feedback loop. And when it comes back, the telephone, conversation's not always the same. But I think if we are aware of that and we practice this empathy for other people, we can go, maybe that's not what they mean. Maybe that's not how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So let's respect their space, because we don't know exactly what it is that's going on. And I would challenge women to be bold and to ask, to talk. Like I love to talk about, I always say sour gummy worms, because it's not important. I love to talk about things that are not important. But I also want real deep connection with people. And I think that can drive some people away when they're not ready and they're like, I don't really know you that well. And so you really have to try and read the room. But I would encourage us to talk, real talk with our sisters, because chances are we're reading them wrong and we don't know what's really going on.
I agree with that. I totally do. And that just like you said, I'm thinking that you're walking around with all this confidence and boldness, and your hair over your face is a different,
I will say, like, I thank you for saying that, though, because you're right that I didn't look like anyone else at school. I didn't listen to the music that everybody else listened to. I didn't do a lot of the things that my peers were doing. That in my mind was because I was hiding, but it was also a bold move, especially in such a small town, to step back and go, I'm not going to be a part of that. Not that it was what they were doing was wrong, but it just wasn't something that moved me. And so there is a boldness in that. Even if I didn't really be bold, I think it's true that I was. So thank you for seeing in it.
Yeah, you had it all in you anyway. It just needed to come to the surface.
I just needed to grow up a little. I did.
So now that you're all grown up and you're this woman with these red lips, if you had a t-shirt made, what would that t-shirt say?
I love this question. So I mentioned my skincare company. My best friend and I do this together, and so I've been doing it for almost 4 years. And for almost 4 years, she and I have been talking about like co-captaining a team called Team Create Change. And I wanted team change. Like when I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to be like, this is what I want is change. And for me, it had a lot to do with my skin tone. The face of our company at the time was predominantly middle-aged white women. And I wanted to change the face of the company because middle-aged white women aren't the only ones who get wrinkles. So, and I fully believe in representation and not just diversity, because diversity is just, mixing a bunch of different people together, but it's not learning from and feeding off of and integrating. So equity and inclusion in change. She had on her own been thinking of Team Create because she wanted to help people create new dreams and income stream and life and changes. And it was perfect. We had independently come up with that, and Team Create Change was born. Always ready to create change, whether that is emotionally, physically, or creating change in the face of marketing and advertising. I'm getting a master's degree in business and marketing right now. And man, work to be done to change the face and the body type and the image of the people we see in commercials. I want to create change in that space. And so that's on my shirt.
Well, I like your shirt. When you get it, I'm going to have to get one.
Yes.
So what are you doing right now to make change and go out there with radical empathy? What are you doing today?
So I mentioned I have my skincare company, and it brings skincare to your doorstep so that it can change your wrinkles. It can change your lines. It can change your skin tone. But I'm not that interested in women changing that. I'm not that interested in the hair dye and getting rid of the wrinkles. I want to say I'm not. There's always a juggle with it. But I think what it really does, and what I'm really trying to do, is have our outward appearance reflect what's inside. And the confidence and the boldness that most of us have in us. I had it when I was 14 and in high school and didn't know it. It's in there. And if dyeing your hair red makes you feel that way, one of my very best friends just got her hair dyed red and she got extensions put in. She messaged me and her hair is normally this long and now it's down to here. And I was like, what? But it was needed to feel beautiful. And it gave her the confidence that she was hiding inside at the moment. And I think I can do that through the business, not just because the skincare, but because it creates income streams. And I mentioned earlier, generational poverty. I think change is so important. And modeling responsible, ethical money making is important to our children, especially children who are growing up in more impoverished. I'm interested in creating change and changing the face of what an American businesswoman looks like, what an American business looks like. And there's just so many possibilities outside of high heels that, we don't have to be relegated to. We can wear slippers.
Yes, we can. Awesome. Well, I love it. And so people can follow you on Facebook or email or.
I am on Facebook. I don't know what my that web address is, but it's under Sarah Good.
Okay.
There's plenty of us. I'm the SoCal one. But can I give you my email address?
Yes. What's that?
sarah.good.skincare@gmail.com.
Yes.
So you can reach out to me that way, and then I can talk more about the actual business and what it looks like in the products and things like that, to hopefully help create change in someone else's space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to the Wrinkles family today. I really enjoyed everything you said. I know if someone's going to really get motivated to think about, and also the young girls, because, you know, the thing that you're saying and going through that in high school, I went through it in high school. Although I was doing things people didn't know, I had a lot of self-esteem issues and things going through high school at Santa Cruz. But, you know, us leaving little town of Eloy, getting out and exploring the world and traveling and military, and me going to college and you going to college, you can do it.
And not a lot of us did that. Like, not a lot of people left, and that's okay.
Okay.
I mean, my sister never left. She never wanted to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. But I love that you left. I love that you were in marching band in a different place. Like, I think it's exciting, and it just shows so much.
It does. It does. So thank you so much for coming to Wrinkles today. Sarah, we'll be talking to you again. Bye, Wrinkles.
Hi, thank you.